Imagine sitting down to breakfast not in your own kitchen, but in a farmhouse in Japan, then a village in Turkey, then a cottage in Scotland, all in the same morning. You would be handed wildly different foods, yet each one shaped by the same idea, that the first meal of the day should be honest, filling, and made from what the land nearby provided. The sugary boxed cereal most of us grew up with is a surprisingly recent invention. So today, let us travel back and taste how families around the world traditionally started their mornings. In many Japanese homes, a traditional breakfast looked almost like a small dinner. A bowl of steamed rice sat at the center, alongside warm miso soup, a bit of grilled fish, perhaps some pickled vegetables and a fermented soybean dish. It was savory, gentle and balanced, meant to wake the body slowly and steadily. There was no rush of sugar, just a quiet spread of small, thoughtful dishes. For generations, this was simply how a morning began, warm bowls cupped in the hands against the early chill. Move west to Turkey and the Eastern Mediterranean and breakfast becomes a leisurely, colourful affair. A traditional Turkish table might hold olives, fresh cheese, tomatoes and cucumbers, a boiled egg, warm bread and honey, all shared slowly over strong tea. Nothing was hurried. Across Greece and the Levant, mornings leaned on similar simple treasures: good bread, olive oil, fresh fruit and a little cheese. These were foods of the sun and the soil, eaten close to how they were grown, in the unhurried company of family. Now travel north to Scotland, Scandinavia and the cold countries, and breakfast turns sturdy and warming. A pot of oat porridge, cooked slow and stirred with care, was the classic start to a working day in the Scottish Highlands, sometimes with just a pinch of salt. Across Scandinavia, families reached for rye bread, cultured dairy and preserved fish to fuel long, cold mornings. This was fuel food in the truest sense, meant to carry a farmer or fisherman through hours of hard labour before the next meal came around. What ties these very different tables together? None of them relied on something sweet from a brightly coloured box. Each was built from whole, local foods, grains, eggs, dairy, fish, vegetables, fruit, prepared simply and eaten without hurry. Breakfast was a moment to gather, not a thing to grab on the way out the door. There is real charm in borrowing a little of that spirit today, choosing something whole and homemade now and then. If you are ever unsure what fits your own body, a professional can help you decide. This morning we travelled the world at breakfast, from the savoury rice and miso of Japan, to the slow, colourful spreads of Turkey and the Mediterranean, to the hearty oats and rye of the cold north. Different foods, one shared wisdom that the first meal should be honest, whole and worth slowing down for. Here at HappyMind Nutrition, we love uncovering the everyday traditions that quietly nourished families for generations. If you enjoyed this little trip, subscribe and come along for the next one. Thank you for starting your day with us.